Good evening, students. Welcome to the live coaching classes organized by Board of Studies ICAI. Today's evening, we are going to have our discussion on this topic called appeals and revisions under GST law. For a quick confirmation, let me have as a protocol to have a confirmation from some of you who have been watching me online with respect to my audio, with respect to my presentation and video. Quickly give me a feedback on the chat box, students, so that I can go ahead with our today's discussion. And sorry for the delay, technical issues there at the back end. That was the reason we have to start our today's session 5 minutes late than the regular time. Let me have a quick confirmation from some of you so that I can go ahead with the discussion. Good evening, Akshay, Namita. I have 4-5 questions from you. I'll take up all these questions now. Before that, let me have a confirmation with respect to the audio. Yes, sir, you're audible. Thanks, Namita, and thanks, Krishna, for the confirmation. Now, before we start with our today's discussion, last session, we had a very wonderful interactive session on 25th January. Before we could end our session, there were 2 questions which were there in the question window, which I have not taken up. Let me have those questions discussed now. First question, Namita is asking this. So if someone has purchased the goods from a chore bazaar, will there be a penalty under section 129 for the purchaser by the officer concerned? One of the good question. Let me confirm this by way of taking back to my Excel file. And students, meanwhile, have this Excel file downloaded for your understanding. Today, I have few more questions for you to have a recap. We will have that, and then we'll go back with our discussion. Now, section 129, Namita, for us to understand, this detention happens when there is a violation of goods in relation to transportation. If there is a violation of goods in relation to supply, there will be a detention and seizure under GST law, right? So now you have purchased some goods from a particular shop, you are taking it back to home. Is the movement of goods on account of supply? Answer is no. It is for personal use. And when you read Rule 138, Rule 138 says that there is no requirement for a e-label. So when there is no requirement, definitely applicability of provisions of section 129 does not come into picture. So to answer your question, Namita, used personal goods, no requirement for e-label. So this is the answer to your question, Namita. All other students who are watching me online, the question is there a requirement of e-labelability for those goods which have been taken from a chore bazaar, which are asked by the officer? Now, the moment we say, sir, this is a used personal mobile. Like example, these days, all of you have a smartphone. The cost of the smartphone may be costing 50,000 plus, including GST. So as per e-label provisions, more than 50,000 e-label is required. The moment you say it's a old used personal goods, even personal belongings, e-label is not required. So answer, Namita, it is not required. Then there is a wonderful question Namita is asking. So we have discussed about section 132, where this section 132 has taught us certain punishable offences. Under this punishable offences, there is a provision which says that any person who aids, abets the main offender, the person who is supporting that main offender will also be punishable for 6 months. Akshay actually asked this question where Akshay was asking, said, what happens to your professional? Say for a moment, a chartered accountant files a written of that particular gentleman. How will the officer look at this particular provision? So answer to that question, Namita, as long as a professional has exercised his work, which was assigned to me, I as a chartered accountant, I keep a track. Client gave this data. My responsibility was just to upload the data onto the GST portal. Now, I haven't done anything other than uploading the data given by the client. In that regard, I wouldn't be held professionally misconduct. There's no professional negligence. Rather, if I myself create a data as a sales data or a purchase data without any inputs from the client end, and I'm also a party to this particular transaction, then in those cases, Namita, I will be called as an offender who is assisting the main person, a person who is supporting or who is encouraging the transactions in relation to the offenses which are noted under 132, where I fail to prove my professional misconduct. Then yes, I will be held guilty of misconduct. Accordingly, punishable offense 132 attracts to my position also, Namita. Moving on, Namita is asking this question: OIDAR services import by government. Why it is not in business? Now, it's a rule. Now, government need not be taxed to itself. So that is the reason they have kept this outside from the import of applicability of reverse charge mechanism. Next question. Sir, under section 122, subsection 1, 17, section 122, 17, okay, fails to furnish information or documents called by an officer. If A claims that false information furnished is minor breach under 126, will the penalty be avoided? In any offense which was, any data which was given erroneously, you have to have a reason to prove whether it was a minor breach or it is a punishable offense. A simple example: my officer asked the data to give for the period April 21 till September 21. But what I have done, by mistake, I gave April 2020 to September 2020. So always I can go back to the officer and say, my dear officer, it is my mistake. Oversight, instead of giving data for 2021, I gave it for 2020. Then you can plead for your ignorance under section 126, Namita. Rather, though he asked for April 21 to September 21, you just gave April 21 to June 21, and you say that July to September there is no transactions. Though the transactions exist in books, if you say that the transactions are not there, then it is a punishable offense. So that is how you need to prove yourself guilty of misconduct. Next. This question of 132 in relation to CA, Namita, we had a discussion on that. And there's one more question from Namita. Sir, if invoice is issued for rupees 3,000, which is an offense under 122(3), will Mr. X claim it as a mistake under 126? Now again, for all mistakes less than 5,000, just like that, we cannot take as a plea under 126, Namita. It should be a breach which is having a value less than 5,000, and it is having without fraudulent intent or gross negligence. Now, if you, before even looking at the explanation, you should prove that there is no fraud, there is no negligence. Now, if these two are established, yes, we can plead under section 126. Next is a question. So, if penalty is imposed under 127, okay, will 127 prevail or 125 will prevail? 127, if we say 127 will come into picture, Namita, when an officer has forgot to levy a penalty. I repeat, if an officer has forgot to levy, then 127 comes into protect the interest of penalty. This is how we need to look at it. Thanks for the confirmation, Ramakrishnan, Saina, and Ganga, thanks for the confirmation. So these are the questions which were asked for today. Now, as we have done in the last session, students, we'll have a quick recap of a couple of questions, and then we'll go ahead with our topic for what we have left in offenses and penalties. Under offenses and penalties, there are three topics which we have left out. I'll finish this recap and then we'll go back to that topic. And keep it in mind, students, what we have been discussing: demand and recovery, assessment procedures, offenses and penalties, and today's another discussion, appeals and revision. This is all theoretical areas. I'm giving, to the extent possible, practical problems to get yourself connected with the subject. And feel free to pose your questions on the question window so that we can have a detailed discussion on those questions. Moving further, Hope this Excel file is visible to you, students. Let us look at this first question. Goods have been purchased from unregistered person, which have not been accounted as on the date of visit by the GST officer. Examine the penal provisions in this regard. Now, there was a physical verification by the GST officer. The day the officer has come for verification, there is a material which is lying in the registered premises. These goods have been received from an unregistered person, and those goods were not accounted on the day when the officer has come for physical verification. What are the penal provisions? Now, when we talk about penal provisions, as you are aware, right from section 122 till section 137, we are going to cover, right? Till 138, 122 till 138. These are the provisions which elaboratively cover on penal provisions. Now, section 122, we say there is a list of 21 items which are there. Students, please come to your institute material. Look at your institute material, page number 21.5, 21.4. In 21.4, you have this section 122. There are 21 offenses notified. Can someone tell me this activity of non-accounting of the purchases, does it fit into section 122? Refer to page number 21.4 of your institute material. And students who don't have your institute material, you can refer to the previous presentation material I have given to you. So please look at this point and tell me whether is it covered under section 122. I'll wait for your answer. Namita, give me 2 minutes more. 127, I'll clarify. Yeah, I'll definitely clarify on 127. I have one answer from Namita. She says that yes, under section 122, point number 16. Okay. And Akshay says no, it is not covered under 122. Okay. Namita, if you read point number 16, fails to keep, maintain, or retain, fails to keep the books of accounts, fails to maintain. I don't maintain purchase register. I don't maintain sales register. I don't maintain inventory register. Fails to retain the books. As per the law, 72 months I have to retain. So it is neither keeping, but he has the books, but he has not accounted. Now here the question has been come into picture. The assessee has failed to account them, right? Sairam says yes. Under which clause, Sairam? So Namita, if you go back to that 16, now benefit of doubt, all other students look at your point number 16. Fails to keep, maintain, or retain books of accounts and other documents in accordance with the provisions of the Act. Now here, it is not a question of non-maintenance. I have not accounted per se. Fails to furnish information or documents. Sairam says fails to furnish information. Under which clause, Sairam? Okay. Fails to furnish information or documents called for. Under 17. It is not to furnish the data, no, Sairam. I have not accounted per se. So here, the assessee has not accounted. Can I come to section 123? It is asking about a information written. 124, it is a statistics. 122, subsection 3. Again, it talks about a person who is helping, a person who acquires a possession of transportation of goods, receives or in any way accounted with supply of any other manner with in relation to services, fails to appear in case of summons, fails to issue invoice in accordance with the provisions. So I don't have 122, I don't have 123, I don't have 124. Absolutely, Geeta, you're right, ma'am. Geeta says it comes as a residual entry under section 125, where a penalty may up to rupees 25,000 under CGST, 25,000 under SGST may be asked for. So students, you have to look at this entry 122 carefully. Only those list of items under the 21 notified activities will be covered. Now, don't take this as whatever the statement I'm going to give, don't take this as an excuse for all your answers. So what if in examination, I don't remember section 122. I have that 21 list. By chance, if this is not accounted, not fitting into that, what shall I do? You can take a cue, like it's a last resort. Don't take this as a way you have to answer your examination. You can quote your section 122 and you can say that as per the provisions of 122, a penalty of rupees 10,000 or the tax evaded shall be levied as a penalty. However, any penalty which is not covered under section 122, 123, 124, a penalty under section 125 may be extended up to rupees 25,000. That's how you give an answer. So coming to this particular point, this is not covered under section 122 in general. Yes, section. Your point is correct. So here you will say that failure to account the goods is not specifically covered under section 122 since there is no specific provision dealing with this requirement. A provision of cover a penalty may be up to rupees 25,000 under section 125 shall be applicable. So this is how we will give our answer. Now, I'm just trying to make your thought process. When you read the provisions, when you read the topics, you should be in a position to understand how do you read in between the lines. Now, moving to the second question. XYZ Private Limited has imported services on 17 July 2021 from a vendor in a non-taxable territory against which invoice has been received on 1st August 2021. Examine the time of supply. So students, I'll give you a minute. Recollect your time of supply provisions and give you an answer for point number 2. In relation to services which have been imported, on July 21. Bill has been received on 1st August 21. What is your time of supply? You have to prepare yourself, you have to update yourself, you have to keep refreshing your knowledge on the provisions what we have discussed. Now, okay, section 13, which deals with your time of supply for services. Namita says 1st August 2021. Let us look at that, Namita. As per your section 13, which deals with your time of supply for services, it says that my time of supply shall be earlier of two aspects. One is that date of payment entered in the books of accounts, date immediately following 60 days from the date of issue of invoice. Now, these are the two provisions. One, the date of payment, or two, 60 days after the date of issue of invoice. Earlier of these two will be considered as your time of supply for services. Now, if this particular transaction happens to be an associated enterprise, earlier of either booking of the invoice or making the payment, whichever is earlier. I don't have this 60 days provision. So what we have to do, Namita? 60 days from the date of 1st August 2021 or payment made to the particular supplier. That should be considered as your time of supply. Geeta says 17th July as the time of supply. Akshay says 17th July 2021 as bill received in 30 days from Akshay, in relation to goods, 30 days. In relation to services, 60 days. This is a thin line of difference we need to keep in mind, right? So in case of supplies, in respect of which the tax is liable to be paid on RCM, my time of supply will be earlier of these two. Did they give the date of payment? They have imported the services on 17th July. They have imported the services on 17th July. Law says that the date of payment entered in the books of accounts of the recipient or the date on which the payment is debited in the bank account. Was the payment made on 17th July? Answer is no. Then point number B. The date immediately following 60 days from the date of issue of invoice or any other document by whatever name called in lieu thereof by the supplier. Now, if I'm not in a position to determine these two, the day when I have made an entry in my books, that shall be taken into consideration. I don't have A, I don't have B. In absence of these two, I'll be taking into consideration the day when the entry was posted in the books of accounts. So we will just conclude this. We will say that as per section 13, if as per section 13, assuming the above transaction is not a associate enterprise transaction, then above provision is applicable. So here, for me to conclude, my date of payment is not required. You will just elaborate the provision and you will leave it at that point, right? Next, moving to question number 3. A has received goods prior to change in, this is a little tricky question. Apply your thought process. A has received goods prior to change in the rate of tax, and payment for the supply has been made after change in the rate of tax. If Mr. A has to pay the tax on reverse charge basis, examine the time of supply provisions in this regard. Examine the time of supply provisions in this regard. Now, please keep in mind, this question has been framed considering the provisions of section 14 prior to change, after change. Now, let me see how many of you are going to answer this properly. Question number 3. You can give a thought and answer. Say question number 3. Quick. And don't jump into conclusion just like that, students. This is how final level questions are tested. This is how your final level questions are tested. So, my question will be, is the time of supply after the change in the rate of tax or before the change in rate of tax? Assuming that 1st Jan 2022 is the date of change. What they say, goods received on, say, 30th December 2021. Payment on 5th Jan, payment on 5th Jan 2022. This is my cutoff date. So prior to cutoff date, assuming that rate of tax is 5%. After the change in the date, say 12% is the rate of tax. So what would be your answer? Side answer is goods when received is considered as rate for RCM basis, that is before change. Perfect answer. I completely agree with you, Sally. Akshay says second condition of invoice or payment, we have to check whether these two conditions before change in the rate are satisfied or not. Second condition of invoice or payment, we have to check. Yes. Now, in relation to goods, I draw your attention, go back to section 12. Now, examination, section 14 is not relevant here. You will quote that in relation to goods, there are three conditions. One, it says that my time of supply in relation to reverse charge shall be earlier of the following. Point number A, date of receipt of goods. Point number B, date of payment as per the books. Point number C, date immediately following 30 days from the date of invoice. Receipt of goods, payment, or 30 days from the date of invoice. These are the three conditions given now. Now, in relation to this point, in relation to this particular point, first and foremost, we will say that the above transaction is governed as per section 12. In that subsection 3. Now, time of supply shall be earlier of A, receipt of, date of receipt of goods. B, date of payment. C, date immediately following 30 days from the date of invoice. Now, these three are the conditions. So here what I say, A has received the goods prior to changing the rate of tax. The moment I have received the goods, my time of supply gets triggered. I have made the payment after the change in the rate of tax. So here, my date of invoice, generally, the moment there is a supply, invoice has to be there with that supply. So accordingly, point number C becomes an irrelevant point. I have to say that my date of receipt of goods, that is prior to change in the rate of tax. Prior to change in the rate of tax. This is a point which determines my time of supply. So accordingly, prior to change in the rate shall be the time of supply for payment. So what we will do, whatever rate 5% is there, that will be the rate we will adopt into consideration. Right? Next. Goods have been stored in a godown and the operator of the godown is not a registered person. No proper books of accounts under section 35 have been maintained by the owner of godown. Examine the penal provisions applicable. Go back to page number 21.4. Quickly, let me know, is it covered under section 122? If you say yes, it is covered under section 122, let me know under what clause this is covered. Yes, Akshay. Time of supply for goods is when that goods have been received. And yes, Sumit, your answer is right. 5% is the rate of tax. Geeta, hope you have understood this question. It is prior to change in the rate of tax. Now, with respect to question number 4, students, please quickly give me your answer. 122. Where does it cover? Section 122. Under 122, page number 21.4, which clause deals with this particular transaction? Which clause deals with this transaction where the owner of a godown is expected to maintain books of accounts? I think Namita, you gave this answer a little early. Just look at your original answer. No, I think, yeah, Namita. Sairam gave the answer as 15. Sorry, 16. Section 122, subsection 1, clause 16. What does it say? Fails to keep, maintain, or retain books of accounts. Fails to keep the books of accounts, maintain books of accounts. I don't keep the books of accounts. I don't keep the books of accounts, right? That is a point which covered under 122. So here, the owner of a warehouse is expected to maintain books of accounts, is expected to prepare books of accounts. So here, the owner of the warehouse has not maintained the relevant prescribed books of accounts. It is a punishable offense under section 122. And Sairam, what is the penalty, ma? Is it 10,000 or tax evaded? What will be your penalty? What will be your penalty? How much do you quantify? Yes, Geeta, it is covered under section 122. And Akshay, yes, your point is also valid. Ravi, yes, it is point number 16. Can someone help me with the penalty? Having said that, can you tell me what is the penalty? How much penalty can be imposed? Because it is in relation to, there is no tax evasion. It is just a procedural lacuna. He shall be liable to a penalty of rupees 10,000 or an amount equivalent to tax evaded. Yeah, there is no tax evasion. Yes, it is a punishable offense under section 122, subsection 1, clause 16. A penalty of rupees 10,000 under CGST and rupees 10,000 under SGST shall be applicable. This is the answer. Next, moving on. 5th question. A proper officer under GST has issued a notice for demand of tax penalty in relation to supply of goods, where on an e-way bill, vehicle number has been mentioned as 1482 instead of 1842. Examine the relevant provisions under GST. I think Namita has been fighting quite along under 126. Namita should be the right person to give this answer. Here, what happened? The transporter who is transporting the goods, he has prepared an e-way bill. Instead of entering as 1842, it was entered as 1482. By invoking the provisions of section 129, if you recollect section 129, what happens? Tax along with penalty equivalent to tax or 50% of the value of goods less tax paid there, tax applicable there. Now, this is a penalty which can be invoked under section 129. Now, is this right? What would be our answer? How much should be the maximum penalty? Now, 120, Namita has a very good valid point. Sir, owner needs to maintain books of accounts as per section 35 only when he is registered. It is not compulsory, Namita. It is not mandatory that owner has to register under section 35. Sorry, section 22, 23, 22. So if you read section 35, there is a responsibility. Even otherwise, there is a registration. Even otherwise, there is a registration. You are expected to get registered under GST law. You are expected to get registered under GST law. Sorry, I take back my statement. Owner of a warehouse or a person who is maintaining a godown or a transporter, owner of a warehouse or a person who is operating a godown or a transporter, though not register, these are the three set of people notified to maintain books of accounts. Now, section 122 starts with the phrase taxable person. Taxable person, a person who is registered under GST or a person who is liable to pay tax. If you read your section definition, taxable person. A taxable person means a person who is registered or liable to be registered under 22 or 24. So he need not register himself under GST, wherein provisions of 125 may be invoked. Now, continuation to this answer, Namita. If the godown in charge is not a registered person, then penalty under section 125 shall be invoked. Now, to confirm this, a taxable person, section 122 is applicable. All other cases, 125 is applicable. Students, for your understanding, I will repeat this point, what Namita is trying to put across. What Namita says, a godown or a person who is operating a warehouse need not register under GST. What if the services for operating, I get a rental income, I do bookkeeping, I do pick up and drop, multiple services are there. So part of that, I may be registered, Namita. If I'm registered, I'll be covered under 122. If I'm not registered, penal provisions under 125 is applicable. So why do I travel to 125? 122. If you read your page number 21.4, they have put a bold taxable person, right? So as per that particular provision, a person who is registered, section 122 is applicable. If a person is not registered, then I'll go with my section 125. Moving further, point number 5, question number 5, let me look at the answers. 126, it can be treated as a minor breach. Yes, Namita, point is valid. And Geeta also says only vehicle number is wrong. It may be a mistake. Mistake apparent on the record, no penalty. Akshay, Sairam, all of your answers are right now. So we will see here under section 126, not a punishable offense. Right. Quickly, let's go to the last point. Mistakes a registered person who has transferred the property in his name to Mr. Y. There has been an audit inquiry proceedings initiated under section 65 of the GST law. Now, this point was picked up earlier. We had discussion on this demand and recovery, where there was a provision which was dealing with your transfer of property to be wide, right? Where Section 81 has put a restriction when there is a good faith when the property was transferred, or property was transferred for full value, or with the prior permission of this particular officer. All these are not to be called as offences. So you'll refer to Section 81 for cases where transfer of property is not void. So this is your answer for point number 6. Now let me quickly come back to our previous discussion. Now, this is the point which Namita was asking. Power to impose penalty under Section 127. Now please keep in mind, Namita, this section says where a proper officer is of a view, that a person is liable for a penalty, and the same is not covered under the proceedings under these provisions. So if there are any proceedings, in those proceedings, now whatever we have read, Section 122, 123, 124, 125, we have read these 4 sections. Proper officer felt that, yeah, I have given a notice under 62. I have given a notice under 63 or 73, 74. Any of these provisions, I forgot to invoke penal provisions. Then Section 127 says that this officer can invoke this provision for the purpose of levying for the purpose of including a penalty. Now, when we read this Section 75 is a mechanism where interest. So, what if interest was not demanded in an order? By default, if there is a tax to be collected, a mechanical provision was brought in the 75 subsection 9. So 75 talks only in relation to interest. Section 127 talks in relation to penalty in any of these proceedings. Right? This is what we need to understand. Next, moving on quickly further to a couple of small topics what we have left out. I'll come to those topics and offences and penalty. Yesterday, this is the slide where we have stopped our discussion. Major offences, where Akshay and Namita were asking, sir, why does a chartered accountant will be punishable under 132? Any person who's supporting the main offence will be punishable for a period of 6 months. This is what we have discussed till yesterday. Now this provision, now all along we have been talking only businessmen is being punished. Now, this is one provision which says liability of an officer and certain other persons. What they say, a person or an officer, any person or an officer concerned willfully discloses any information or consents or any contents of a written. Now, what is happening? Let's take example of GSTN. I as a taxpayer, now GSTN, we know that it is managed by Infosys. I get to know some person in Infosys who's the key person maintaining the GSTN portal. I try to approach that particular fellow and try to take information. Say I want to have the written filing status of Wipro. I want to have a written filing status of L&D or some XYZ, some ABC Private Limited. All the data what I take, either from a person who's having the key access to that data or an officer. I know that there is an officer who has been doing an audit, anti-evasion. I've asked this officer, sir, you go for a inspection under Section 67, call for some records. Now, these records are connected with some tender documents. I need some information from that. Now, this provision is protecting the interest of the taxpayer. What they say, a person or an officer who are concerned willfully discloses the information or contents of a written. Now here, please keep in mind, this person or an officer have the data of a written, contents of a written or any information. Now this any information is open under the sky, like your balance sheet, your financial statements, your sales register, purchase register. production records or your tender documents, lot of information which you maintain, which is accessed under Section 65. That shall be a punishable offence with a imprisonment for a term which may extend to 6 months, or with fine, which may extend up to 25,000 rupees. 25,000 CGST law, 25,000 SGST law. Any person who is a government servant, he shall not be prosecuted for any offence under this Act unless there is a sanction of a government. It should be a previous sanction. So, just like that, you cannot pick a government employee for the purpose of prosecution. You have to take a prior approval of the government. So, what if it is not a government servant? In case if it is not a government servant, then you have to take a mandatory approval of a commissioner. If you recollect Section 132, prosecution, any prosecution under GST, commissioner is the key person. So any person other than government servant, commissioner should give a permission. In case if it is a government servant, then prior approval of your government is required. Now, cognizance of an offence. Any offence which was identified as a cognizable offence. Now, what is a cognizable offence? Offence where there is no bail. Arrest without a warrant. A police officer has come to arrest without a warrant is called a punishable, a cognizable offence. So the provision says that any offence which is a cognizable offence, commissioner is the only person who has a right to execute that. If any of this prosecution which is not done as per the knowledge of commissioner, it is not a punishable offence. So they have given utmost purpose to commissioner to say that only with your knowledge we are going to entertain the cases. Moving further, presumption of culpable mental state. Now, this aspect of culpable mental state, existence of a mens rea, what they say in any prosecution for offence under this Act, which requires a culpable mental state on the part of the accused. Whenever someone has done wrong, existence of this mens rea is what they look upon. So the court shall presume the existence. What they say, whenever an officer has issued a notice on, say, Praveen. The Praveen has received a show cause notice from a proper officer saying that, Praveen, you have availed an input tax of 1,85,000. I see that this is a punishable offence. You have taken the input tax without receipt of goods and services. And when this matter goes to a court of law for any matter, the existence of mens rea will be the preset tone. That means I, as an accused, I have to prove my misconduct. I have to prove that, sir, I'm not punishable. I have not done any misconduct. So this is the presumption the courts do have. And it is a defense. Now, whenever I go to an appeal, tribunal, court, High Court or Supreme Court, any of these three stages, students, I have, like any person who has been put on with the offense, with the allegation, they have to go for defending themselves. So straight away they say that, Praveen, I think you have done. The court believes the officer. Now for us to prove with the documentary evidence, this is what is expected under this section 135. And what is a culpable offense? There is an existence of mens rea, that is an intention, motive, or a fact for doing something. Moving further. Now, section 136. Now, see, we would have seen many movies, we would have seen the court procedure where the affidavit 1, affidavit 2, affidavit 3, like people who come as a person to give a statement. Now, whenever a case has been confirmed, the examination of that particular affidavit happens in court of law. So, in relation to this, what you call section 132, which is a punishable offense, what they say, a statement is relevant which needs to have a test for the truth or fact. See, generally, you know that summons are issued under section 70. Whenever summons are given, a person who is representing for summons, they give a statement. This statement says that I, so-and-so manager of so-and-so company, I do confirm that we have taken the purchases, we have availed so much of input tax credit. We made supplies for so much value. Because of working capital issue, this tax was not paid to the government within a period of 90 days or 120 days. Now, they take all information as a statement in summons, right? So what they say, these statements needs to be proved in any prosecution for offense under this act. Any statement which was taken as a under section 70, that is summons, in any prosecution, whenever there is a prosecution for levying an offense, for calling that as offense, the truth of these facts which were taken will be examined in couple of cases once again, where a person who made the statement is dead or cannot be found. Sir, in summons, I have taken a statement from manager. When this commissioner has decided to call for a arrest for that particular offender, the moment when the team went to the company registered premises, this person who gave the statement, say manager, is no more. Then this particular management says, look, you have relied upon a statement which is incorrect, or you have relied upon an evidence which does not have a base. So at times, this statement needs to be put forth for test once again. Or a person who has made the statement, is examined as a witness before the court. And the court is of the opinion that, having regard to the circumstance of the case, this statement should be admitted as evidence. See, I want to admit this as evidence. Please let me know why it should be admitted as evidence. You prove. Court says that this is a statement which was taken under coercive and under pressure. The director says, sir, I was put under pressure. I don't know what I have written. They have made me to write this statement. When this is a particular fact which was put in front of the court, then again court says, boss, something is wrong. I would recommend you take a statement once again. That could be a scenario. So wherever this particular magistrate feels that this statement given under section 70 is not a proper statement, they may go back or they may call back for re-examination of that particular statement. Now, this is one slide. I draw your attention where you have to think twice. We see most of the times that people call for taking your support. Namita, I'm planning to incorporate a company. I need to have 2 directors. Why don't you lend your name as a director? Or say there is a friends. Now, someone comes to Akshay and says, Akshay, I want to start a business. I have Geeta and Naveen already joined my business. Why don't you lend your name as a sleeping partner? Please keep in mind, whenever something goes wrong, which is a punishable offense, this slide explains the seriousness, how we have to take into consideration the persons who are in charge of that particular business activity. So this provision says that where an offense is committed by a person, whenever we talk about a person, individual, HUF, LLP, partnership, BOI, AOI, private limited company, public limited company, all these activity, trust, all these things come together as a person. So that person who is registered, along with that, a person who is acting as a company, along with that particular company, every person who at the time of offense was committed was in charge of or was responsible of. So in case of a company, who is in charge, who is responsible? The board of directors, the management. So if the board of directors have appointed Namita as CEO, board of directors say, look, we have just assigned all our roles and responsibilities to Namita. She is the person who has been appointed as CEO. Namita says, Sir, I have been given the powers by the board. Along with this power, board has assigned these powers that I can sub-assign to someone else. Namita has assigned these powers to say Akshay. Now, who is responsible? The person who is in charge, the person who is responsible of the company for the conduct of the business. Board of Directors says, look, we are there only to take a decision. My day-to-day affairs are not dealt with the directors. The day-to-day affairs was given to CEO as an in charge. That particular person who is in charge for conducting of that business shall be deemed to be as well shall be deemed to be guilty of the offense. So what this provision says, whenever there is an offense which is a punishable offense under 132, it is not the company alone lifting corporate wheel. We have discussed in corporate law, there is a provision called lift the corporate wheel. Whenever things go hayway, you lift this to see who is the person to be punished. Similar provisions under 137, along with the company, a person who is in charge shall be equally responsible. So is there a way where I, being a CEO, can I protect my interest? Now, this particular provision says further, this provision says that where it is proved that the offense has been committed with the consent or connivance of or is attributable to any negligence on the part of the director, manager, secretary, or other officer of the company, all those people who are part of this particular offense which has taken place shall be liable in this particular regard. Now, the board of directors says that, my dear proper officer, look, we gave a free charge to a CEO. CEO says that, look, I am only into technical side. I gave complete in charge to my secretary, who is a professional for taking care of books of accounts, who is a professional to take care of operations. Now, both are under the control of this particular person. When there is a mechanism to prove that everything was done by a set of people, the limitation of this offenses, this punishment will be to those set of people. Moving further. Now, here what is happening? I have to prove myself that I have taken due care. I have taken enough precautions to ensure that there is no non-compliance. If I, as a director, can prove, I will be set aside and the other person who is in charge will be taken into consideration. I'll just give an example for you to understand how we have to present when you get into an organization. I'll give an example. Say, there is a transaction where there is an entity in Australia, a private limited company which is controlled or which is managed by a CEO. There is an entity in Australia. Now, this Australian entity says that, look, I have a website. I encourage all SME business in India to register on this website and do a business. Whenever there is an order in Australia, you supply the goods from India to Australia. I ensure that money from Australia comes into this particular entity in India. Now, all this arrangement was good enough. In the process of doing so, this particular CEO has failed to understand provisions of FEMA, provisions under RBI, provisions under income tax, provisions under GST. What if this is a drug trafficking? What if this is a anti-terrorist move where money from small accounts come into India? From this private limited company, money gets routed to various companies. Now, instead not to have this, so-called CEO takes a legal opinion. They come to, say, Akshay, or they come to Geeta, saying that, Geeta, this is the agreement I have. This is a party in Australia. Now, you read this contract, give your legal opinion under FEMA, under income tax, under GST, or indirect taxation. What I have to do? Based on the written opinion, I got into this transaction. Now, you prove yourself saying that, look, there is no negligence. There is no consent. There is no connivance. I haven't have mens rea to do this particular offense. So this is how you protect your interest to prove that I have taken all precautions not to get into offenses. In case of a LLP or a partnership firm, this provision says that along with that LLP or a partnership firm, partner or karta shall also be equally responsible for any of the offenses. Now, this is a slide I was saying that in relation to company, it is important to prove that you have to prove that it was without the knowledge, and the manager, the director, has exercised all the due diligence possible not to have this offense to occur. This is what relevant under 137. Next, last slide under your offenses and penalty, compounding of offense. This provision, compounding of offenses, clearly says that, look, whenever there is a punishable offense, we have read section 132. Now, whenever commissioner wants to initiate provisions under 132, what does it say? Because you have issued an invoice, you have supplied without a tax invoice, you have availed a wrong input tax credit, you have been a party for transportation of goods without permission, or you are aware that this is a goods which are liable for confiscation, but still you have entertained into that supply. When all of these offenses involving a value exceeding 1 crore, the punishment up to 6 months or up to 3 years, up to 5 years, when all of these things comes into picture, there is an option called compounding of an offense. Means the person in charge can go to the commissioner and file application. This application gives a mechanism to give a relaxation. So officer, that is a commissioner, can entertain this particular application when it is a first time offense which is conducted. Then this commissioner says, look, you pay minimum of either 50% of the tax or 10,000, or maximum to the extent of 150% of the tax or 30,000. Now this is just an indication. Practically it so happens that always commissioner resolves to this particular modus operandi. If the tax evaded is rupees to 1 crore, the commissioner says, Praveen, you deposit 1 crore 50 lakhs, so I can do the compounding. Compounding means I'll do away with the offenses under section 132. This is the slide which is last topic which is covered under 138, offenses and penalties. From here, let's come to the topic for today's discussion, that is appeals and revision under GST law. Before I start with this topic, let me see if there are any questions so far on today's discussion. Namita, yes. Under section 133, if there is any information which is under the custody of Infosys, if it is made public, they are punishable. Next question. So also in 137, see 137, I have done an activity where I have disclosed information which is not supposed to be disclosed. If an employee is done, then there is something called a legal terminology. Let me recollect that. Vicarious. There's a legal term called vicarious liability. Any act done by an employee is also responsible on the employer. It's called vicarious liability. So if an offense was conducted by any of the employee, it is also a responsibility of the employer. Employer has to take enough precaution. A valid question which was asked by Namita. So what if the employer, that is a managing partner, has not done an offense, any of the employee has done an offense, then applying the principles of vicarious liability, since it is an offense done by employee, it is deemed to be a misconduct by the employer. Provisions of 137 definitely can be invoked in that regard. Now, there's furtherance to this one question by Namita. So what if X, who's an outsider who abets the CEO to do an offense, will X also be caught under section 137? relationship of X, if it is as an employee, 100%. If there is no relationship, then the party who is there abroad, it is tough to invoke the provisions of 137. Compounding of offense, Namita, it is just a mechanism like you go to river Ganga to dip yourself. The moment you dip yourself in Ganga river, all your papas are taken care. Similarly, under the compounding of offense, I just filed an application to the commissioner saying that, my dear commissioner, I did a mistake. Please excuse me. This is the first and last. I promise that I never do a mistake again. So once I go and surrender myself before the commissioner, before the provisions of 132 are invoked, commissioner can compound. That means he can take away the offense of imprisonment under 132, where he recovers a tax minimum 50%, maximum 150%. So how much amount to be levied as a compounding fee depends on the commissioner. So it is a mechanism where I get away from the provisions of 132. This is what my compounding of offenses talks about. Now, before I come to this appeals and revision, I'll explain the backdrop of this chapter, appeals and revision. Let us look at this way. We have discussed on demand and recovery. From there, we have discussed, before that, audit assessment. Now, audit and assessment provisions, which are called for to examine a person who is registered, who has filed the returns, a person who is registered, not filed the returns, a person who has registered, not filed the returns, a person who has not registered, not paid taxes. All this is the mechanism we have discussed under audit and assessment provisions. From there, we moved on to understand something called demand and recovery. That means how the officer will quantify the tax not paid, tax to be payable but not paid, tax short paid, ITC wrongly paid. From there, we have understood for various activities what are the offenses and how these are punishable. Now, we have understood that my aspects of audit assessment provisions connected with offenses and penalties. So these are the two provisions we have discussed so far. So what if I have done nothing wrong, but still the officer is adamant? He has issued a show cause notice. This show cause notice has gone for adjudication, and in adjudication, order has been confirmed on the assessee. Now, to have a relief, to have a remedy from this allegation or extraneous demand, the remedy is appeal under GST law. I repeat, whenever a registered person feels the proper officer failed to understand the business, the adjudicating authority also failed to understand that whatever facts were submitted, whatever explanation I have given, were wrongly or not at all understood by these officers. In these mechanisms, in these particular circumstances, for me, appeals and revision is a mechanism where under section 107 till section 121. appeals under section 107 till 121 are coming as a rescue for the purpose of setting aside these allegations. I repeat. Now, whenever someone takes someone into custody, what they do, they go for applying for a bail. Where does it happen? It happens in a court. And then you file an appeal against that particular matter concern. Similarly, under GST law, section 107 till 121, these are the provisions which talks about the rules and responsibilities, duties, and relief for the registered person and for the government. Appeals, this is a relief for the taxable person. Revision, this is a relief for the government. Now, what happens? Say, one of the matter, we have gone for an appeal and the concerned commissioner appeals gave a relief to the registered person. After some point in time, the government feels that the order which was given by the commissioner or the order which was passed by the joint commissioner is not good as per the law, or it is biased to the revenue interest. Then this concept of revision comes into picture for setting aside that particular order. So all this mechanism where the fight happens from the assessee, the fight happens from the department is discussed in this particular chapter called Appeals and Revision. Let me come to my presentation to make you further understand on this. Appeals and Revision, we will understand how does the adjudication happens, what are the documents which generally will be submitted in the process of adjudication, what is the hierarchy when we go for an appeal, persons who can file an appeal, and what all contents we have to disclose when an appeal has to be filed, advancement of appeals till the matter gets finality, that is at Supreme Court level, and finally conclusion. Now, few basics of adjudication. Students who are not aware with respect to income tax or indirect taxation, this term adjudication, this is a starting stage. This is a starting stage where the demand gets confirmed. I repeat, a demand under tax matters gets confirmed by way of order at the stage of adjudication. Now, how does this adjudication happens? This happens where a person who was registered and was filing his returns, and these returns have reviewed by the officer, and the officer feels that e-waybill says 1 turnover, e-invoice says 1 turnover, GSTR1 says 1 turnover, GSTR3B says 1 turnover. So when there is a difference in the turnovers, probably that could be a case which will be picked up by the officer for adjudication. A taxable person who is registered but not filing his returns. A person who has taken an input tax credit on self-assessment basis. Means you have taken a credit more than what has to be taken as per GSTR 2B or 2A. Discrepancy in relation to e-waybill or registration or documents furnished. All these are the matters which will be discovered in a regular audit under section 65, special audit under 66, or search and seizure, section 67. Regular assessment, 62, 63, 64. All these are the matters where this adjudication gets started. Now that means a process where a show cause notice is given. As per the show cause notice, standard 30 days is given for giving the opportunity of being heard. Means I have to respond to that notice and say why that demand has to be set aside. And I have to give my necessary explanation with the documents. And this adjudication, an order will be passed. Either this will be in favor of the assessee or it will be in favor of the department. If it is in favor of the assessee, we need not do anything. If it is in favor of the department, I have to go to the next level called appeal. Now, basically a show cause notice is given where they will mention on the basis of this information or these documents, I have demanded this amount. And they will summarize as per so-and-so section, so-and-so rule, so-and-so procedure, this particular amount is being demanded. And once this has been communicated, as a registered person, as a taxable person, they have to either admit or they have to say that your allegation is incorrect. And based on the show cause notice, I have to make a response to the show cause notice. Now, adjudicating authority. Who is the officer who's called as an adjudicating authority? Superintendent, Assistant Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner, Commissioner, Joint Commissioner, Advanced Ruling Authority, or your tribunal. Now, these are the various officers whom I have under my GST law. This authority, that is the adjudicating authority, as I said, the first point where the order gets confirmed. That means the demand gets confirmed. Authority appointed or authorized to pass an order or a decision. Order, we know. Decision. Sir, I have filed for a provisional assessment. Sir, I have filed for a registration. Sir, I have filed for a refund. My registration has been rejected. They have decided that Praveen need not register. I have filed for a refund. They have passed an order to reject my refund. So there could be a decision, there could be an order under this act, that is CGST, SGST, or UDGST. And this particular officer does not include, very, very important, does not include CBIC, that is a board. The board is not adjudicating authority. Revisional authority. Make it a noting of revisional authority. 5 minutes down the line, I'll explain this. Advanced ruling authority for advanced ruling, or appellate authority for advanced ruling. So this does not include advanced ruling. When I say decision, this decision does not include advanced ruling. Appellate tribunal, because this order will be challenged before tribunal. It does not include authority. Why? I challenge this decision before appellate authority. So these are the officers who are not included in this term called adjudicating authority. Even the officer appointed for anti-profiteering is not included. So just to reconfirm, not included. One is CBIC, that is a board. Second, revisional authority. Now, revisional authority, they are the people who sit in the department, who read all the orders passed. Just to give you information, how it happens in the department. Whenever, see, like we feel that none of the government employees work. Now, this is a general tendency we have, but there are many officers who actually stream themselves in work for the government. Good or bad, they always work for the government. So there is a team called a revisional authority headed by a additional commissioner or a joint commissioner. A team who sits in this particular authority, who reviews all the orders passed. Order passed by a superintendent, assistant commissioner, deputy commissioner, joint commissioner, additional commissioner, commissioner. Any orders which are passed by a GST officer, all these orders will be read by the revisional authority. Why do they read? They read, was there a compromise? Was there a wrong interpretation? Was there a proprietary matter? Was there a hurriness in passing an order? So any order which is in favor of the assessee, definitely it will go for revision. So there is an authority who's called revisional authority. It is not to be considered as an adjudicating authority. So for students, whatever I'm writing in numbers, they doesn't form part of my adjudicating authority. Third, authority for advanced ruling. So advanced ruling, it is a decision in relation to few matters. A week later, we will understand on advanced ruling. Then appellate authority for advanced ruling. So any matter in connection to advanced ruling cannot be called as an adjudicating authority. Appellate authority. So why do I say appellate authority is not included? Any order passed, first party where I challenge is appellate authority. So I cannot call this appellate authority as an adjudicating authority. Next, appellate tribunal. This appellate tribunal, the next level where I challenge, first authority I challenge is appellate authority. The next level where I challenge is tribunal. So this also is set aside. The last authority referred under section 171, that is your anti-profiteering. These are the 7 officers who have been set aside from adjudicating authority. Examination, 3 marks question. Define the term adjudicating authority under GST law. Students, I again caution you, expect the unexpected in your final examination. define the term India, define the term taxable person, define the term adjusted turnover, define the term adjudicating authority. Few definitions you have to read. Define the term exempted supply. Reason why we stress on these definitions, these are the definitions, these are the hard bone for entire the discussions on the chapter. So this definition, please wait and watch for your examination. Now, appellate authority, we will discuss 5 minutes down the line. Who is the person to whom we go for an appeal? Appellate tribunal, the next level. Assessment, we have discussed in the last session. Authorized representative. Now, any matters, either the assessee he himself can defend or he can appoint an authorized representative. So there is a separate section 116. I'll explain in detail in that particular section. Now, finally, revisional authority. Revisional authority means authority appointed under or authorized for revision of a decision or an order. Now, generally, sir, who is included here? It includes your AC, DC, Joint Commissioner, Additional Commissioner. These are the three set of people who sit in this revisional authority. So their job is day to day, they read all these orders. And for you to see, when you're reading this, I correlate this with your this story of what Chanakya has explained many aspects of your tax matters. Large corporates, let me take example of say Infosys, Wipro, L&T, or any of these big size organizations. There's a separate team called commercial team, commercial head. This commercial head, what they do, they read all the notices which were served on the company. This large MNCs, where they have presence across say 15 or 5, say exceeding 3-4 states. Wherever they have their operations, it is part and parcel of the business. They get a notice from the department. The way this centralized head office, which is called your commercial team, this commercial team is headed by a chartered accountant who is having an experience on tax matters, both income tax, indirect tax. So these are the people who read thoroughly all those notices which were served to the various branches. Similarly, in the department also, they have a revisional authority, whose job is only to read the orders passed under GST law. Let's start with our first remedy called section 107. I'll come to my Excel file to give a backdrop and then come back to the content for discussion. Now, before we read this particular term called appellate authority, you need to understand this process called First, I have to put this way so that you can understand. First, audit is conducted. Audit or inquiry is conducted. When an audit or inquiry is conducted, this particular officer has a suspicion that tax to be paid but not paid. Then that fellow issues something called a show cause notice. And this goes to the next level officer called adjudicating authority. This is a person who looks upon the notices served and takes a decision, which is called as an order. Appellate authority. This is a forum where any person aggrieved, means any person who has suffered. Now, this sufferance could be a government officer or could be an assessee. So this, when I say aggrieved, it could be a registered person or proper officer. So it is not necessary that only assessee has to go for appeal. At times, even this proper officer may also go for an appeal, right? This is what we need to understand. This happens at the third stage. So stage 1, audit where a show cause notice is given. Adjudicating authority, a person who decides the matter, which is the order passed. Appellate authority, who takes the matter for appeal. Now, for a moment, if superintendent passes a show cause notice, adjudication will be done by a AC or DC. And when an order is passed by AC or DC, the appeal will be before a joint commissioner or an additional commissioner. Now, this is a ranking. If an audit is conducted by a AC or DC, then this adjudication will be done by a joint commissioner or additional commissioner. Then the appellate authority, there are few spelling mistakes, friends. Please ignore that spelling mistakes. It is not intentional, just it is oversight. Commissioner. Now, if the adjudicating authority happens to be a joint commissioner or additional commissioner, a person one step above will be called Commissioner Appeals. So this is how the cycle works within the department. So whenever we talk about this appeal mechanism and all, you have to understand who is the person who has issued a notice, who is the person who passed an order, and this lied before which authority. This is how we have to read this provision. So appeals before a appellate authority by assessee. So first let us look from the assessee's point of view. So any person who has suffered by a decision or an order by adjudicating authority, he may appeal to appellate authority. What is the time limit? Within 3 months from the date on which this decision or order is communicated. So if I receive an order on 31st December 2021, 3 months from there, Jan, Feb, March, on or before 31st March 2022, I have to file an appeal. So the law uses the term 3 months, not 90 days. So if the order was received on 15th June 2021, July, August, September. 15th September 2021, on or before that date, I have to file my appeal to the concerned officer. So what if I have missed the bus? This 3 months was missed out by me. Then there is a condonation. That means the appellate authority, he may condone by 1 month. What this appellate authority says, Praveen, you are supposed to come to me by 15th September 21. What is the reason you are delayed? My dear officer, I have given the file to my professional chartered accountant. Because of COVID, he was down with COVID. All his staff were also affected. So by the time he could recover and he could come back to office, there was a delay. By the time he has come back, one of my manager fell sick. Now I give a justification. Based on this justification, this condonation will be given for 1 month. So what if 15th September 21 was the due date? I go on 17th of October. As per the law, 15th September, 1 month extension happens to be on 15th of October. I have gone on 17th of October. They say nothing doing. You should have come on 15th of October where there is a condonation possible. So 1 day, so 2 days. No. If you go beyond this, appellate authority clearly says, look, I have to go with the rule book. It is a Bhagavad Gita for me. They have given only 1 month extension. I cannot do anything. So this is how they take into consideration when an appeal was filed belatedly. Now, there's a form called APL01, which I have to fill and file electronically. Now, this form APL01 will have something called statement of facts. Then grounds of appeal, documentary evidence, and then your prayer for appeal. Students who have little flair for drafting, see this topic, appeals revision, demand and recovery, your offences and penalties. There are very few professionals who take this area of practice. Reason, lot of study, lot of reading, lot of analysis is required. Once you decide to get into practice, I would say this is one of the promising career, provided you have that inclination to read in between the lines. Like no, when I was looking at your answers, there are a few students who actually come with those finest points of reading in between the lines. So why, like no, Namita has one question. Sir, you're talking about section 122. What if the godown person, a godown owner, is not a registered person? Point is valid. If the person is not a registered person, I set aside section 122, I have to go to section 125. Assuming for a moment, when there is a order passed demanding a penalty under section 122, and this order is beyond 3 years under the statutory time limit of section 73. It's a fit case where after 3 years, it is deemed that that order was never passed because officer cannot invoke a wrong section for invoking a penalty. Right section is under 125, invoked under 123. That itself is a strong case for you to go and argue, saying that, boss, you did a wrong mistake. So this is how reading in between the lines will help for these matters. And just to give a backdrop, a person, a senior professional who deals with these matters, like no, just to give a insight, a person who goes and represents in Supreme Court, they generally charge not less than 2 lakhs per day. A person who goes and represents in the High Court, they charge not less than 75,000 per day. This is how the professional fees charged to represent on court matters. Not that every matter will go for court of law, but there's a decent amount of practice where you have a patience to read these particular provisions, right? Coming back to our discussion. So when I filed this form, I clearly mentioned what are the facts. Officer came for audit. He issued a notice on so-and-so date. He called for this information. I gave this list of documents. Based on this list, he gave this query list. I responded to that query. Based on that, he gave set of observations. I responded with so-and-so notification, so-and-so rule, so-and-so section. This is called statements. I don't talk anything else beyond that. I am a daughter of so-and-so. I have my MP. I have my minister so-and-so portfolio. I have this company who has got so much of turnover. I don't talk anything else beyond that. So I just content myself with the facts of the case. Then I go for grounds. I argue in the grounds what are the sections or provisions of the rules or the matters which have been settled by various tribunal, court, or any other law concern. At times, I may take a matters which were decided in income tax. Like example, under income tax, when there was 234 ABC, which was argued, there was an argument in one of, I think, Bombay High Court, this matter came for examination. When an assessee file is written, they say, this is a defective written, I cannot admit that written. Then this assessee went in for argument. You are saying that I have filed beyond the date, you're not accepting my written. Then why the hell you're collecting something called 234 ABC for delay in payment of advance tax, delay in filing my written, delay in disclosure? No, you've been collecting so much of fee. When you have collected something called fine or fees, you're like, no, I'm compensating the delay. Once I have compensated the delay, a written should be admitted. And this argument was upheld in Bombay High Court. Now, this matter, say for a moment, any matter which was connected with late fee, which was upheld on income tax, I can very well draw that particular matter as a reference and say, my lord, I paid late fee for filing GST 3B. And when I've paid late fee, whatever data I have disclosed in my GST 3B should be permitted as an input tax credit. Just because I filed my return belatedly, you should not deprive me from the benefit of input tax credit. So this is how I can take the grounds of appeal on few matters which I rely upon under GST Act or GST rule or a case law from a High Court or from a Supreme Court or any of other appeal related matters, or for that matter under any other law. Could be Negotiable Instrument Act, could be your Immovable Property Act, could be your Contract Act, could be Income Tax Act. So all this I can put under grounds of appeal. Documentary evidence. What we will do by giving an appeal, we always say that, sir, this is a sales register, this is a purchase register, these are the purchases I have given. look, based on these documents, you only look into the facts and you decide. Whatever documents I gave to the officer, the same documents are coming to you. You have a fresh look and see whether I interpreted wrongly or your officer interpreted wrongly. Finally, prayer of hearing, where we will give our confirmation. Do I want opportunity of being heard in person or I don't want personal hearing? This is all I put across in this form called GST APL 01. Next. When I file this application online, this application shall also have something called pre-deposit, a payment called pre-deposit. Now, what I have to do whenever I go for an appeal, there are two matters. One tax matter, which is admitted. Second tax matter, which is disputed. So the officer says, Appellate Authority says, look, Praveen, you have been given an order. In this order, say there are 3 line items. First line item, you agree. Second line item, third line item, you disagree. Do one thing. First line item, since you have agreed, you pay the tax along with interest, and if penalty is there, you pay that and show me the challan. Second line, third line, you are not agreeing. So do one thing. You make a pre-deposit that is 10% of the amount in dispute. So if my dispute for second line item, third line item is 85,000. 85,000 into 10%, 8,500. I make a pre-deposit. That means I want to give some money as a token advance, which is called deposit, to file a appeal with the authorities concerned. And is there any limit ceiling for that? Yes, there's a limit of 25 crore rupees for a pre-deposit. What if a company comes for 500 crores demand? There's a demand of 500 crores, just arbitrary. 500 crores of that 10% happens to be 50 crores. Here, the maximum ceiling is 25 crores. Can there be a tax matter of 500 crores? When there is a retrospective amendment of the law, what happened in case of this, what was that company? The mobile company, I think ArcelorMittal, where there was interpretation of this section 9 under income tax, where there was a retrospective amendment of income tax law, which was settled in favor of the assessee. And they went into the International Court of Dispute and Redressal Mechanism to get a favorable stay, where the demand is more than 1,000 crores of rupees. So in those matters, they say pre-deposit is restricted to 25 crores. Now, once I make this pre-deposit and once file my appeal, then it is deemed that balance 90% amount is hold. So the officer, if you recover your section 83, where there's a recovery of tax, any order which was passed and the amount which was not paid within a span of 3 months, the officer may pass a order for recovery of tax, section 79 and section 83. Where there's a provisional attachment, there is attachment of bank accounts. So my recovery happens under section 79. So here, the moment I file an appeal, it is deemed that the recovery has been stayed till the matter attains finality. Now, it so happens that, as I say, it is not that only assessee will go to the appeal. The department also may go for appeal. So why does the department go for appeal? Where department is not happy with the decision or the order, then the department can file appeal with the Appellate Authority. How it happens? Commissioner suo motu, means on his own motion, or a request given by a SGST or UTGST commissioner. So the state commissioner or union territory commissioner will write a letter to the central GST. My dear commissioner, there is an order passed under your jurisdiction. Please look at that. I think you have to challenge that particular order. So here, this commissioner can go for an appeal, right? Now, the way we have a time limit, even the department has got a time limit. Now, they say that if at all the commissioner feels that the legality or proprietary concerns have been compromised, commissioner, he may direct the subordinate officer to file an appeal within a period of 6 months from the date of communication. In assessee's case, within 3 months. In case of a department, it is 6 months. So why is that partiality? Now, department, definitely, as you expect. Now, a private party, he works all 25 days in a month. Unfortunately, government officer works only 20 days in a month. Private person, this corporate people, they work all 26 to 28 days. Unfortunately, there is a deprival of the government officers. They work only 20 days. Out of that, you take your sick leave and all, they work 10 to 12 days in a month. So because they have less working days and they have more work to work, 6 months is a given time limit for them. So if they delay, what happens? They have a condemnation of 1 month. Fortunately, assessee was given 1 month, even the department was given 1 month. In case of assessee, he will file APL 01, the department files APL 03. And there is no pre-deposit for government. So assessee, he has to park 10% his money. In case of a government, there is no custom. They need not park any money for filing an appeal. Now, let me see a couple of questions and then let's go back to our discussion. There's one question from Namita. Sir, how does this provision, that is a mechanism of 138, differs from your issuance of a show cause notice? Namita, this compounding of offense is a notice is issued. See, they come for a what you call there is a confiscation. They come with a particular notice arrest warrant. The moment there is an arrest warrant or there is a confiscation of goods, confiscation of a person. In case of a confiscation, which is nothing but the provisions of 138, I, as a taxable person, will go and surrender. Like example, when Lord Shiva comes for a fight, there are few asuras who surrender themselves, saying that, hey, Lord Shiva, I cannot, I don't have a courage to withstand before you. Similarly, a taxable person who feels that concrete evidence is there, they have come for confiscation, invoking provisions of 132. Then he surrenders himself. They show cause notice and all will not be there. Straight away they come with the arrest warrant. So here, my issuance of a notice under 73, 74, irrelevant. They straight away come for your attack. Next. There is a question from Sumit. Adjudication is the first step for imprisonment. Adjudication does not give an imprisonment. Adjudication confirms the demand. Imprisonment is coming under 132, punishable offense. Serious offenses comes under 132. So adjudication, see when there is an adjudication Sumit, they will say that, look, this is my understanding for demand. I confirm an order. I'll give you 3 months. Sumit, in an adjudication, they confirm the demand and they give you a time limit of 3 months. This time limit of 3 months does not come in a prosecution. Both Namita and Sumit, please understand. In case of a prosecution, there's no time limit. Straight away, arrest warrant comes, like, they come with the police custody. In case of adjudication, they confirm an order and they give you a time limit of 3 months. Whether you fight the case or you pay the demand. Naveen, I think Vodafone and Hutch case, yes, Naveen. This is what I was referring to. Namita says if the department files an appeal with a pre-deposit, there is no as I said, Namita, fortunately, there is no pre-deposit for department. And if they have to deposit, it is a public money. No officer will pay. Unnecessarily, the public money goes for a waste. Geeta is asking this question. I cannot understand. Second point about 25 crores. Okay. See, Geeta, when there is a pre-deposit, we come to this file. Pre-deposit, %10 of tax, maximum up to rupees 25 crore. So, let us assume that scenario 1, scenario 2. tax in dispute. And pre-deposit. Tax in dispute is say 125 crore. Now, pre-deposit is 10% of 125 crore, 12.5 crore. Are we clear with this, Geeta? My provision says that 10% of the tax in dispute, maximum up to 25 crores. So here, there is a dispute of 125 crores. Because there is a dispute, 10% I have to make a pre-deposit. 10% of 125 crores is 12.5 crores. Second scenario, assuming that there is a dispute of 500 crores tax evasion, input tax racket. So 10% of 500 crore, 50 crore is restricted to 25 crore. That means assessee, instead of paying the 10%, he will restrict up to the maximum, that is only 25 crores will be paid as a pre-deposit. Hope this is clear, Geeta. Is this point clear, Geeta? Now let's come back to our point of discussion. Now, this appellate authority, like appeal can come from the assessee, appeal can come from the department officer. Any of the appeals which have come, first and foremost, as a natural principles of natural justice, personal hearing has to be given. Without a personal hearing, the matter cannot be decided. Whenever the person, either the officer or the registered person, wants to take an adjournment, these orders which have been passed by this officer, that is appellate authority, this appellate authority, what he will do? First, he will make an inquiry of the matter in case, and then he will decide the matter to pass something called order in appeal, OIA. This is a technical term, students, not as per your syllabus. Technically, this is called order which is passed by my appellate authority is called OIA, order in appeal. Passed by the adjudicating authority, it's called as OIO, order in original. Order in original is passed by adjudicating authority. This is passed by adjudicating authority. This is passed by adjudicating authority. Next. Now, this particular order, what he will do? He will confirm the demand of the department officer, or he will modify, that means he will reduce, or NL, that is, he will set aside the decision or order. So he can either modify, he can reduce, or he can confirm. Sorry, he will confirm, he will reduce, or he will set aside. Now, so what if the adjudicating authority has to increase the fee or penalty? There could be a possibility in the process of discussion, the appellate authority feels that there should be increase in the demand in lieu of this confiscation of goods, or reducing the amount of refund. Whatever refund you file, it has to be reduced, or input tax should be reduced. Then a reasonable opportunity will be given to the assessee. Now, these are the matters where instead of assessee, department has gone for appeal. When department has gone for an appeal, the appellate authority decides, okay, let me increase the demand. Why? Proper officer did a mistake. I invoke these provisions of section 127 to invoke the penalty, or a refund was given to the assessee. The department has come for appeal. Based on the department, the refund which was sanctioned to be called back, or an input tax which was allowed by an adjudicating authority was to be denied. Now, these are all the matters where the assessee is getting deprived of his benefit. Then what the appellate authority will do? He'll give an opportunity first to this particular assessee, then they will decide the matter. And whenever appellate authority decides the matter, he sees first thing, was there a show cause notice? Was there a show cause notice? If a show cause notice is not given, I don't even entertain the order. And second thing he'll say, whatever order you have given, was it within the time limit under section 73, 74? So the appellate authority sees two aspects. Whether the show cause notice was given, if it is given, second he will say, was the order passed within the time limit as per section 73, 74? If you recollect, students, 3 years in case of 73, 5 years in case of 74. In case of my section 73, 3 years from the annual return due date. In case of 74, 5 years from the annual return. These are the due dates which will be validated by the appellate authority. Moving on further. Now, any matter which has been decided by appellate authority, it will be called as a speaking order. That means he'll give in writing exactly the legal provisions relied upon to frame his decision. So it's called speaking order. Means a direction is given to appellate authority. Whenever you're confirming, you decide the matter, but you tell me by what basis you have decided. And sir, is there a time limit to pass an order? Decent time limit is given 1 year from the date of filing appeal. You have to decide the matter. And in the process of deciding, if there is a stay by a court or tribunal, like example, the other day, I was talking about Mohit Minerals case. Say, the matter has come before appellate authority. Appellate authority says, look, the department has gone for a writ petition for to Supreme Court. Sorry, not writ petition. The department has gone an appeal to Supreme Court. Because this matter is pending at Supreme Court, let me wait till the final judgment comes from the tribunal. So that is a period they will take away before deciding the matter. These matters which are decided by appellate authority, a copy will be given to appellant, a copy will be given to the respondent, that is the department officer, and to the adjudicating authority. So one to the assessee, two to the jurisdictional range officer, third to the adjudicating authority who passed the order. And also this copy will be given to the jurisdictional state or central commissioner. And once an order is passed, it is binding unless there is a appeal to the next forum called appellate authority. Unless an appeal is filed to the appellate authority, it is binding on them. Now, whatever decision is taken by AC or JC, it will be heard by commissioner, and by AC or DC, it will be heard by JC. Next, section 105, 108. We are at 8 o'clock. Let's have a break for 5 minutes. 8:05, let us resume back. our next topic called powers of a revisional authority. As I say, this term revisional authority is very important for the reason they have so-called officers who are into reviewing all the orders passed under the GST law. These particular officers, they review wherever there is a matter which has been brought into their attention that something went wrong. Then this particular officers, generally, who are they? The officers, principal commissioner, where the matters are decided by a additional or joint commissioner, additional or joint commissioner, where the matters are decided by DC or AC. Now, the law says that under section 108, where revision by a RA can be done for the orders which are passed by their subordinates. Now, what they are doing, this actually is a unhealthy provision. Reason, appeal is a right mechanism where there is a fair chance to fight. Revision is a case where they pick up the order, they say, Praveen, Naveen has passed this order, which is not as per the law. They'll pick it up and they call for a hearing and they decide the matter at their end. A lot of unhealthy practices do happen in case of this revisional authority. So the RA on his own motion, that means they themselves will pick the matter for scrutiny, or on the basis of information received by a request of a commissioner of state or UGST, can call for examining the record of a proceeding. So they say that the officer suo moto by themselves or on the request of a commissioner, they can pick up these matters. What they say, on examination of these orders which were passed, where RA is of a decision that the order which was passed under state or center or UGST by an officer who is subordinate to him is erroneous, or it is prejudicial, as far as it is prejudicial to the interest of revenue. What they say, in one case, I gave a relief under e-way bill. In one case, the commissioner gave a relief for input tax credit. Whatever the matter, prejudicial, that means it takes away the substantial benefit of the revenue. So they say it is error. Like example, section 16, subsection 4. Under section 16, any purchases for a financial year, I can take the ITC up to 6 months from the end of the financial year. That is on or before due date for filing return for the month of September. This is a provision under GST law. So in one matter, this particular commissioner says, when there is an import of service, I don't compare that imports of service with the particular financial year. I compare the day they have accounted. Some sort of interpretation. The registered person puts across one interpretation, which was admitted by the commissioner. Now, the revisional authority feels that commissioner has grossly mistaken. He wrongly interpreted. Now, why? Now, once the order is passed by a commissioner, all the people will take the shelter under this. The moment there is a show cause notice, they'll say, boss, a commissioner has already given a relief. You are bound by the orders of commissioner. Take back your notice. This could happen. This could happen. Now, that is the reason they say error. It is illegal or improper. Fortunately, they have not defined what is illegal. They also have not defined improper. They say they have a reason to believe that it is illegal or improper. A registration was given to a particular person. They say that this order for cancellation was lifted. Now there is a racket, there is a consortium. One of the party was identified as a culprit, and this, as it says, registration was cancelled under 29. This person goes for an appeal, and appellate authority passes an order. They say that no, it is illegal. Why? He is one of the party in the racket. So they have a revision. They have authority. They have a reason to believe that it is illegal. Or this particular adjudicating authority has not taken into account certain material facts. Certain material facts means the officer has forgotten. There is a statement given by the assessee. Some details were missed out. See, this is easy to write, but in practicality, though there is no illegality, though there is no error, though there is no material fact missed out, they take a shelter under 108 to invoke for a revision. Whether available at the time of issuance or not, in consequence of an observation by a C&AG. In those cases, they stay the decision, they stay the operation of that decision for such period. So what they say, using the power under 108, they stop the benefit of the order. Now, what orders can be reviewed? They have said that you have a power to review. What orders can be reviewed? They say, you have reviewed. Once you have reviewed that particular order, you decide. He may pass an order where he thinks that the demand has to be enhanced, or they modify the demand, or they set aside the order. 99% of the cases, this happens. What they do? They will set aside the order. They'll say that this is improper, this is not on the basis of facts provided, some sort of interpretation they'll bring in, they will set aside the order. So all the orders which are picked up under 108, where there is a benefit given to the assessee. So every order of RA shall be subject to further appeal to a tribunal or a high court or a Supreme Court. Now, I don't have a choice. The moment there is an order passed against me, now again I have to go to a tribunal, to a high court or to Supreme Court. Now, fortunately, few revisions are not permitted. What is that? Decisions of Section 121. This is the last discussion for today. I'll come to Section 121, where there are few matters which cannot be reviewed. There are few matters which cannot be appealed. So Section 121 is the last slide. I'll come to that. RA, that is Revisional Authority, shall not exercise its authority where an order has been subject to an appeal before Appellate Authority or a tribunal, high court or Supreme Court. What they say, whenever there's a Appellate Authority who given their final order, this Appellate Authority was challenged before tribunal, was challenged before high court, was challenged before Supreme Court. Because this matter is challenged and this is still pending for finality, don't take it for revision. Or where Section 6 months time limit for a appeal by the department. Now we have discussed under 107, 3 months for the registered person, 6 months for the department. So when there is a time limit of 6 months for the department to go for an appeal, they say that I'll wait for the 6 months. If nothing was taken an action by the department, then I'll do a revision authority. Look at the way these provisions are invoked. Appeal can be filed within 6 months. By chance, the department forgot that they have to file an appeal. Now they come under 108 to open up for scrutiny. So isn't it undue exercise? For an assessee, 3 months time limit is given. For a department officer, they give 6 months. What if the officer sleeps beyond 6 months? Happily, they'll come under Section 108 to invoke this particular revision. Or more than 3 years have expired. Now they say within a period of 3 years for the order which has been passed, beyond 3 years they cannot do any revision. That means for any order which was passed by Appellate Authority, indirectly they have given 3 years time limit. If you go for Section 107, appeal to be filed within 6 months. So what if they slept over? They have 3 years good solid time to do a revision under this section. Or where this matter already has been reviewed at an earlier stage, or this order is subject to revision. It so happens that a matter which was reviewed by a state authority, the same matter will be taken up by a central authority. they don't have a checks and balances. Like one of case, it so happens, students, refund was sanctioned by a central GST officer. This refund was challenged by a central state GST officer. Unfortunately, the central GST officer sanctioned a refund. This refund was challenged by a state GST, was not challenged by the same own officer. Why? The state GST officer has got a different understanding. Later, they say that once a refund was sanctioned, the state officers cannot challenge the refund passed by the central GST. Now, indirectly, they come and say that, look, whenever you want to do a revision, these circumstances you cannot do. What are those circumstances? When the matter is pending for settlement, decision at Appellate Authority, Tribunal, High Court, Supreme Court. If any of these forums, the matter is challenged, don't do revision. If the matter is pending for appeal under Section 107, 6 months time limit, don't challenge. If 3 years time limit is over from the date of passing the order, don't do any revision. If this matter was a matter which was already taken up for revision, don't take it up for revision. So these are the circumstances which they have said for ignoring my revision. Now, in the process of examining the 3 years, what they say, so what if this matter of revision was challenged, or the decision of this appellate tribunal was challenged before High Court, or the matter of High Court was challenged before Supreme Court. Whenever they talk about 3 years, any appeal which was spent either by the SSC or by the department shall be excluded. So solid, this revisional authority gets all the bonus 3 years time limit. Don't worry from examination point of view, only for academical interest. Examination, this I don't see a reason to be tested for your examination. Next. So all this is under Section 108 with respect to revision. Now, coming to Section 109, appeal to a tribunal. Let me explain this and then come back to the PowerPoint. I'll give few examples. Now, this is a hierarchy, students, where matters will be taken up for appeal. Now, I call that these are the various stages which are there in a appeal mechanism. First and foremost, it goes to the appellate authority, who happens to be the commissioner or a joint commissioner. From appellate, say assuming that there is a matter which is against the registered person. So he don't have a choice, he will go to tribunal. Tribunal, as of today under GST, not yet formulated, not yet functional. A lot of administrative reasons, tribunal is not in existence. So any matter which has to be appealed, generally 3 months is a time limit. And any matter which is decided by appellate authority, matter goes back to tribunal, where again 3 months is the time limit they give. So on or before expiry of 3 months, this matter should be challenged before a tribunal. And any matter which is decided by tribunal, again assuming that it is in favor of the department, within a period of 180 days, it has to be challenged before High Court. From there, it goes to Supreme Court. So this is a hierarchy within which the appeal mechanism lies. So what happens here? First, you go for an appellate authority. So from appellate authority, you go to tribunal. From tribunal, you will come to High Court. From High Court, finally you land up at Supreme Court. So now, tribunal is a quasi-judicial authority. I write something called quasi-jurisdictional judicial authority. That means a court, magistrate. Now, these are the forums where the legal proceedings will happen. Even a tribunal is considered as a quasi-judicial authority where they have been given powers as if what court has got with. Like your CPC, Code of Civil Procedure and Conduct, where they call for examination. They take an oath before the matter to be decided. They call someone for examination. They call someone to produce evidence. All these matters will happen in tribunal. Tribunal generally, there will be a mixture of department officer and a retired judge of a court. Now, we call this gentleman as a technical person, and we call this gentleman as a judicial person. Now, generally, tribunal is a composition where there will be a person from technical background. They should know thorough principles of GST. There will be a person from judicial, that is legal background, where this gentleman should know how the principles of legal interpretation happens. So whenever a matter comes for decision, legal, technical aspects to be upheld, the judicial matters have to be upheld. Like example, interpretation of statutes. I'm just giving a few examples. How end should be interpreted, how or should be interpreted, how comma should be interpreted, how full stop should be interpreted, what is a judicial or what is a authority, what is a power, what is a intent of the law. Now, there should be a unbiased judgment. So only from the department, if then the officer, you know that all matters will be in favor of the department. So not to have a biased decision, they have a composition at tribunal. Tribunal is always expected to be a place where most of the matters get a relief. They don't go to High Court, they don't go to the Supreme Court. Reason of the judicial authority who sits in the tribunal. So this judicial person will be an independent person who reads, who understands. So generally what happens, like the court, it so happens that there is a bench. Now, when I say bench, I don't know how many of you have seen the court hearings. There will be a forum where one judicial person, one technical person sits over here. The rival, the department officer will be standing here. The assessee representative will be standing here, or assessee will be standing here. So the department officer will say, "My lord, these are the allegations." Then for these points, this particular counsel who represents the assessee, he'll say, "My lord, these are the matters where this matter already has been settled in so-and-so High Court, so-and-so Supreme Court, or so-and-so tribunal." So they they take a cue from those citations. And the department officer will say, "My lord, this gentleman was transporting, this particular businessman was transporting goods from this place to this place." All these matters will be discussed at length at a tribunal. Now, let me come and explain the composition of tribunal and how these matters are discussed. Tribunal is a second level of appeal in a hierarchy to the ordering appeal. Tribunal consists of a judicial and technical. As I said, judge and departmental. Now, technical, principal commissioner or a commissioner. This will be a retired judge from a high court or retired judge from any sessions court. There should be a single member tribunal and a higher bench. Single member matters of value like 5 lakhs or less than amount, matter of input tax credit. So smaller amounts, there will be a single member tribunal or a higher bench where 2 or 3 members will be there. So there could be a bench with a single person or more than a single person. Now, in case of a tribunal, there are 2 kinds of tribunal. Now, students, this is all your academical examination point of view, not much is there. Just for your reason, as of today, tribunals are not in existence. You may feel more theoretical. People who doesn't have an understanding of how the courts do function, I'll explain the backdrop. So as of today, there are one national or regional bench. There is a state or area bench. We call this as NR, national or regional bench. ESA, state or area bench. Language nomenclature, why do they have that way? This national area bench, they will focus only on the matters in relation to place of supply, interstate supply, goods exported out of India, goods imported in India, supply, goods supplied from one state to another state, interpretation matters of place of supply. All these matters are reviewed by national or regional bench. Any matters other than place of supply, these matters go to state or area bench. So this is a functionality or the backdrop between two benches which have been constituted. Then structure, how the matters which are decided by national bench directly go to Supreme Court, and matters which have been decided by a area or a state bench directly goes to High Court. So jurisdiction wise, any decision made by a national bench will appeal will lie to Supreme Court. Similarly, area bench will go to High Court. This is from your institute material, students. How a composition will be there. As I say, technical member, state technical member. In case of a national bench, this is a composition. In case of a regional bench, additionally, judicial member will be there. Why is that national bench this way? Why is the regional bench this way? Now, this is an administrative decision which is yet to be functional as of today. And this is the composition of a state. In case of a state bench, there are 3 members, judicial 1, 2 technical. In case of area bench, again, judicial 1, 2 technical. I was talking about a single member bench. Matters where the value is less than 5 lakh, matters of which involve question of law with respect to ITC availment or late fee, etc. These matters, they generally get resolved by the single member. Generally, matters which go to tribunal, it takes at least 3 to 5 years compared to your High Court, takes a lot of time to get settled at a tribunal. Reason, availability of members are very less. In case of a tribunal, these members are very less available as of today. And these, as I say, CPC provisions, they call for the summon, they inform a person should come in presence to give his statement. They may call for production of records because this is the last fact-finding authority. Any matter to High Court or Supreme Court, they discuss only on law matters, question of law. Question of fact, this is the last fact-finding authority. So that is the reason if they want to examine any documents, if they want to examine any records, they may call so. And they decide to set aside the matters which are decided ex parte. Ex parte matters where the other party in the appeal has not come for hearing. Why they have not come? Maybe service of a notice, service of an order was not in timely manner. Any reasons which was decided ex parte, that is without hearing the party, aggrieved party, those matters can be decided by tribunal to be set aside. Now, any matter I go for tribunal, 3 months I have to file the time limit, and again adjournment maximum 3 months, 3 times they give a adjournment. Now, as we expect a pre-deposit, the pre-deposit in appeal is little different. What they say? For every tax matter of rupees 1 lakh, you'll pay a registrar fee of rupees 1,000 and maximum of 25,000. So in case of a tribunal, I don't pay something called pre-deposit. I pay something called registrar fees. So every tax matter which is having a value of 1 lakh rupees, for that 1,000 rupees is my registration appeal filing fees. Maximum of 25,000, 25,000, 50,000. So what if I paid a pre-deposit already under 107? So whatever you paid it, appellate authority. In addition to that, in tribunal, there's a registrar fee they have to pay. Next, Authorized representative. This particular slide discusses that whenever there is a tax matter. Now, most of the time in courts, it so happens that legal matters, tax matters. Ordinary layman does not understand. Like example, say Namita says, under section 67, you have done so and so offense. Say parallelly, Gita comes and says, no, sir, there is a shelter under section 126. In between, Akshay comes and says that, no, there is no issuance of a notice under 73 and 74. Now, what is 67? What is 73? What is 74? What is 126? These are all technical jargons. A layman doesn't know. Now, most of the matters, a dependency of a representative, that is authorized representative, is required. Take example of a company. A company is run by board of directors, management. Board of directors, it is not guaranteed that always a qualified chartered accountant sits in the board of directors who understands the tax demand. So there is a show cause notice received by the department. So there is a summons issued. Board of directors doesn't know. They know that summons means something which is called in for attendance. Now those matters where the business person needs a support, needs a shoulder, there comes the authorized representative. So a person wherever has been called by a GST officer, a person wherever has been served with an order where he has to go for an appeal, a person has to go to a tribunal, those matters, a person can have someone called authorized representative. So this powers under section 116 restricts its power till tribunal. This is a maximum ceiling. So can an authorized representative go to High Court? No. Only a practicing advocate who has a permission to practice in Bar Council can represent. Unfortunately, that is reason. A chartered accountant cannot represent in the High Court. A chartered accountant cannot represent in the Supreme Court. Reason? The Bar Council made a restriction that only an advocate who has passed his LLB degree, who has taken a permission from a Bar Council, can do a representation. Why? The courts are run by advocates, so they frame their own rules and regulations. They barred a chartered accountant or a cost accountant or a company secretary, though they have an equal capability to argue. They said nothing doing. Only till tribunal, I'll give you a permission. So as of today, students, any person who needs a support to represent before an officer on any inquiry, on any tax representation matters, he can have a person called authorized representative under section 116. This person, one exception is there, students, one exception, where examination on oath is called for, like example, summons. In case of summons, where they take a statement on oath, the authorized representative cannot come into picture. Wherever matters requires, giving a statement on oath, those matters AR is not permitted. Who can be AR? 1, relative. 2, employee. 3, advocate. 4, CA. 5, cost management accountant. And 6, your company secretary. Finally, someone who has passed an exam called GST tax practitioners exam, who has been awarded a certificate for GSTP. So all those tax practitioners who are not a qualified CA or CMA, these people who pass GSTP exam can be called as an authorized representative. Question comes, sir, I have done my CA 3 years articleship. I gave my final, I cleared one group. Can I go for an authorized representative? Answer is no. Only an employee, only a relative of the person, or an advocate or a CA, CMA, CS who have been in practice. Sir, I'm a chartered accountant. I don't have a COP. Cost accountant, chartered accountant, company secretary who hold a valid COP, who have not been punished under any offense, whose COP is not being lifted. Only those people have been authorized to represent as a ER, authorized representative. Similarly, the gazetted officers, so-called assistant commissioner, who retain after retirement, that is after 1 year, post 1 year of their retirement, they can also come and do the representation before tax authorities. So any gazetted officer, like as of today, a person who is holding a rank above AC, he will be called as a gazetted officer. Post their retirement, the tax officer post their retirement, after 1 year, they can come and represent as an authorized representative. Disqualification. A person who has been removed from the government service, there was some offense, there was some sort of misconduct because of indulgence in a unhealthy practice, he was removed from the service. He is barred from representation. Similarly, a person who has been convicted for an offense, even those people were like professionals who have been suspended, their COP has been called back because of guilty of misconduct. Those are all the people who are barred from taking as a representation. Let me take a few questions before we proceed further. Namita is asking this question. Appellate Authority allow additional grounds of appeal. Can he allow those grounds also which are not in notice? For benefit of other students, whenever we file an appeal, we give something called grounds of appeal. Additional grounds of appeal means in APL 01 or APL 03, whenever we represent Namita, we give in writing, sir, these are the grounds I rely upon. I filed a written document called APL 01 with the department. When the matter comes for hearing, from the date I filed my appeal till the date it has been posted for hearing, in this period, assuming that there is a circular which has come in favor of the assessee, assuming that there is a court order which is in favor of the assessee, those matters which were not given in writing, those can be present as a additional grounds. So this is how we read the term additional grounds, Namita. Not the matters which are not there in the notice. Matters which are not there in the notice will not be entertained. Next. Naveen has this down. What happens to the amount deposited by the assessee if it is successful? If the matter is successful, he gets back as a refund. We have discussed section 54, Naveen. Under section 54, he gets an entertainment. He files an application under 54. And if there is a delay under section 56, interest of 9% will be paid further. Santosh Sharma is asking this question. Sir, appellate tribunal or appellate authority reopen the case for the same ground or not? Once the matter has been settled, Santosh, it will never be reopened. Unfortunately, that matter will be reopened by 108, that is revisional authority. A valid question, Santosh. Benefit of other students. Appellate authority or appellate tribunal, these two have given a favorable stay. Assuming that this matter was decided against the assessee or in favor of the department, then the department can fall back under 108. Namita is asking this question. In exception, all matters are appealable before appellate authority, High Court, Supreme Court. So revision authority is not possible in any case. Now, wherever there is an appeal filed, till the matter has been settled, Namita, they cannot. I repeat, till the appeal, like I go for an appeal. For a moment, Namita, you are a department representative. I'm an assessee. Now, I got a order passed in my case. In this order, point number 1, point number 2, point number 3. Point number 1, I have agreed and paid. Point number 2, point number 3, I have gone for an appellate authority. Appellate authority have given a favorable stay. I will not go for appeal. Now, from the department, assuming department has gone for an appeal. When department has gone for an appeal to tribunal, in that matter, revision authority will not put his hand. Reason, this matter either by department or by the assessee is pending before tribunal. Then this revision authority will not put their hand under 108. They will wait. No, it's like a traffic police standing behind a tree. A traffic police exactly standing behind an electric pole. Revision authority will wait for that matter of tribunal or matter of appellate authority to decide. 3 years from there, they have a time limit. This is how we read now. Further, page 22.11, exception to High Court, Supreme Court point is given. Please explain. Okay. See, this point of High Court, Supreme Court, Namita, I have said 3 years. Now, continuation to the previous discussion, Namita. See, this RA, this fellow was waiting. A matter was gone to appeal. Now, as you know, this appeal matter at a tribunal takes 5 years. The day appeal was decided by the appellate tribunal, 3 years will be counted from there. So what they say, whatever matter was passed by appellate authority, generally within 3 years, revisional authority has to reopen that. Now, if at all, if it is going to tribunal, the time from appellate authority's order date till tribunal date, this period, this 5 years, they will set aside and they'll say, from the date of tribunal, 3 years is the time limit. So this is how you read that particular exclusion, appellate, AA to appellate tribunal or AT to High Court, High Court to Supreme Court. So it is like that 3 years window, Namita. He's just waiting behind the electric pole. When you are going on your bike without a helmet, see when you are at a signal, you will see left and right. Which side the traffic police is there? Generally, you will not see the traffic police. Similarly, RA, when he is calculating the 3 years, he will wait for the matter to get decided. Once it is decided, he will come and attack you. That point in time, the 3 years exclusion of time spent between AA to AT or AT to High Court is excluded. Next, Akshay says, final, CA final having completed diploma in taxation and GST. So once they qualify CA final, isn't it a diploma in taxation and a GST tax? See, once you qualify your CA final, you're far ahead of a GSTP. Take it from me, Akshay. What you read in your GSTP is nothing in front of CA final. CA final is 10 times far better than the GSTP exam. I don't know how many of you have read this newspaper. In one of the matter, this Bar Council have given direction to this law ministry, saying because of COVID, you have been promoting the legal students from one semester to another semester. Your entrance exam is not at par. Your promotion of a student in legal course from one semester to another semester is not acceptable. Reason you're producing advocates who doesn't know the legal background. And they have actually compared this entrance exam of CA Institute and the same. Look at the standards followed by CA Institute. Why don't you make your legal entrance so tough compared to CA attempt? So, with all due respect to the other academics, qualifying your CA final is a achievement to prove that you are far ahead of a GSTP. Can a CA, Santosh Sharma is asking this question, can a CA attempt the GSTP exam to become a GST practitioner? That's what I was saying, Santosh. Having a CA degree, GSTP is not required. Your COP is good enough to get yourself as a authorized representative. Now, let's come back to our discussion further. Now, appeals to High Court. Appeals to High Court, these are the matters where, now as of today, tribunal silent. Tribunal is not in existence. So any matter which is decided by appellate authority, AA, ideally AA comes to AT. Now because AT is not functional, all the matters of AA under Article 226 goes to High Court. Now High Court only takes up those matters, where there's a substantial question of law. If there's a matter of substantial question of fact, they'll say, no, sorry, don't waste the time of court. Now, example, a departmental officer says that, Praveen, you have taken an input tax credit of 100 rupees, where you don't have a invoice, a valid invoice. Now, I say there is a valid invoice, officer says there is no valid invoice. I go to adjudicating authority confirms. I go to appellate authority. Appellate authority also confirms says that, Praveen, you don't have a valid invoice. I say there is a valid invoice. The High Court will say, boss, I don't want to verify your facts. Whether you have an invoice or he has verified or not, I don't look at it. I only look at the matter of law. If the officer says that you are not entitled to take an input tax credit on an invoice issued by a registered person after his registration was cancelled, now there comes the question of law. The day when the invoice was issued, registration is intact. After the officer came for audit, the registration of the supplier is cancelled. Now there is a matter of law. Matter of fact, appellate tribunal is the last bench. Matter of law, I will examine. So if officer says that on the day the accounting entry was posted, it was a valid GST registration. On the day officer came for his audit, the registration of the supplier is cancelled. This comes as a question of law, not a question of fact. Then they will listen, right? So please keep in mind, the first and important point is only those matters where the question of substantial law is there, it will be referred to High Court. So any matters, like say, sir, I have applied for a registration. My registration was rejected, saying that your rental agreement is not valid. Now, it is valid or invalid, it is a matter of fact. Your registration has been rejected on the grounds that you have failed to comply with the provisions of Section 25. Now, it's a matter of law, not a matter of fact. So, if you want me to verify your rental agreement, I'll say no. As a High Court, I don't want to verify your piece of paper. As a court, I will say responsibilities of officer, responsibilities of a person. The person comes and says, my lord, I filed application. I gave other authentication. What do you expect else? Officer comes and says, my lord, he gave a rental agreement which is 9 months old. He'll say, are you an idiot? Go back and look at your law. Section 25 says these are the points, and SSA has given these points. Now, these are the matters which comes to the High Court. And what matters? Matters decided by SC or area bench where there is a dispute or disagreement, either by the department or taxable person. This again directly come to the High Court. Again, generally matters of question of law only come to the High Court. So what is the time limit? From the day the tribunal passed its order, within 180 days, I have to go for filing an appeal. Now, since as of today, tribunal is not there, any matters which are decided by appellate authority, within a period of 180 days, I go and file an appeal before High Court. And there is a power of condemnation. Generally, courts take into consideration if there is a delay, they decide on merits why this matter should not be appealed for. Now, first and foremost, they frame a question. They'll say, boss, Praveen, tell me why you have come before me. I'll say, sir, this is a reason I have come before you. They call that as formulation of a question. So first job the court does is, whenever you come to the court, straight away, they'll not take the matter and say, okay, you tell me your arguments, you tell me your arguments. Nothing of that sort. They take the matter and they say, my lord, this is a matter of so-and-so question of law. They'll say, yes, please admit. So once they admit, then it goes to the regular process of getting a hierarchy in the list. So they have something called cause list, CAUSC cause list. So they will put the matter in one of the sequential order. So first they will say, what is the question? And they formulate this question. That is it a question of law which should be entertained? And once it is entertained, it goes for your caution. Yes. Now, once a matter has been decided, they formulate their decision, their judgment, which is containing the grounds of that particular decision, like departmental representative and the legal counsel. Unfortunately, at high courts, only the advocates who have this permission to practice as under bar counsel, they will come for representation. And whatever matters they have decided, they will say that this is the basis to relate upon to pass that particular order. And provisions of CPC will be upheld. Code of your civil procedures will be taken into consideration. That means like examining on oath, relying on evidences, examining the evidences. If there is a false evidence, if there is a fabrication, they'll punish to the court whichever side there is a offense. Now, generally matters of there will be a bench. Whenever I say bench will have minimum 2 judges. I don't know how many of you have seen this virtual hearing. Generally, in a virtual hearing, there will be 2 judges, one senior and maybe 2 seniors. Generally, 2 judges will be there in a bench. So any matter which goes for appeal, it will be before 2 bench. They will listen to the matter and they decide on merits. And whenever there is a dispute, like there are 2 judges and one of the judge does not, I have come to Supreme. If one of the judge has a difference of opinion, then it will be referred to the 3rd judge on those matters which they differ. And once all of they decide, whichever majority is there, that majority will be upheld. There's one movie, Akshay Kumar, I don't remember that name, Akshay Kumar, who happens to be a military Navy officer. There will be a jury. Whenever there is a matter which cannot be decided by a single bench, it will be always referred to a jury. Means more than 2 3 people will be there who decide the matter together for the purpose of benefit of a decision to be made at large. And always majority will prevail. Next. Finally, we come to these matters of Supreme Court. Matters of Supreme Court, any matter from national bench straight away, like matters of your place of supply related provisions will come to Supreme Court. Similarly, matters from High Court will also come to Supreme Court. So whenever a person wants to go for a High Court to Supreme Court, High Court gives a certificate saying that this is a matter which was decided by them, and on the basis of their certificate, the Supreme Court will admit the matter. Now, appeals not to be filed in certain cases. Now, we have understood High Court, we have understood Supreme Court. Section 120 says that a board may decide on the basis of a council that few matters which have a monetary limit, let us not go for a appeal. Now, just to give a backdrop, students, whenever the government matters come for hearing, there's an attorney, the person called Attorney General, ASG, they call Attorney General. This government representative, they get paid by the government of India. Any matters in High Court or Supreme Court, any matters in tribunal, always there is a government representative for whom a matter to matter fees has to be paid. Generally, at a tribunal level, they pay 35,000 per hearing. In matters at High Court, 50,000 they pay. In matters at Supreme Court, 75,000 to 1 lakh they pay. So any government attorney who represents the matters, the government is cautious. Like, not every matter I should go and fight in front of the tribunal or a court. So they have fixed something called monetary limit. So they say, based on the amount which is involved in a matter, let's go for appeal. Even though it is a fit case for the department, they say, for example, input tax credit, which was allowed by a commissioner, this matter should go to tribunal. So the department will go to tribunal only if the value is exceeding, say, 50,000. If the matter is less than 50,000, though they have a fit case to go for an appeal, they will not go. Reason, GST Council said that up to 50,000, don't go for an appeal. Reason, the cost of appeal is 35,000. Now, when you have to recover 50,000 and you pay 35,000, 15,000 does not yield anything to the department. So for those matters where there is a monetary ceiling fixed, tribunal or a High Court or a Supreme Court, generally they abstain from filing an appeal. Now, the moment they abstain from filing, it doesn't mean that the registered person takes the matter to High Court saying that, my lord, there is a matter which was in favor of the assessee where 50,000 was in demand. This is a matter of 5 lakhs. In the matter of 50,000, the department has not gone in appeal. In the matter of 5 lakh, they have come in appeal. So on the basis of that matter which was not appealed, kindly condone this matter as if the department has admitted the fact in that matter. So here in section 120, they say that any matters because of monetary limit, just because department is silent, it doesn't mean that department has admitted the appeals which are against the revenue. So in this particular section 120, they say that all those matters where because of monetary limits, they are not gone in for appeal. Please don't take that as a base for argument in any other similar matters. Now, this is the last slide for today, where the matters which cannot be appealed, the matters or decisions which cannot be appealed under section 121 or under 108. What are those matters? Matters where the order of commissioner or authority empowers to transfer proceedings from one officer to another officer. Now, the commissioner, he feels that a matter which is pending before assistant commissioner should be referred to a joint commissioner. Why? Maybe considering the monetary value, considering the importance of the legal interpretation, or expeditious nature. Assistant commissioner is burdened with 150 cases. So to reduce the burden, matter was transferred from assistant commissioner to another officer. So any matter where a commissioner decided to transfer cannot be appealed, or an order pertaining to seizure or retention of books. Now, seizure, section 129, section 67, retention of books, section 67. Whenever there is a search and seizure where they want to seize the goods or retain the books for further proceedings, the moment a order was given, till the time limit of 3 months is exhausted, they cannot appeal. Even if you go to High Court, even if you go to Supreme Court, they say, look, officer is doing his job. Let me not disturb. Let me not come in the way. Let the officer finish his audit proceedings. Like one of the matter, there was a seizure of books of accounts. Like the officer concerned took the books of accounts for verification. 3 months gone, nothing was concluded. The officer said to the commissioner, my lord, I have been verifying. I need to still call for further evidences. So what this SSC has done, he has gone to a writ petition to High Court. High Court has called. He has asked for the Attorney General, why you are taking beyond 3 months? He said, my lord, there was a invoice racket where there were multiple people involved. They have been calling for, they have summoned for a few more people. So we may require another 3 months. Then the High Court say, look, this is a matter under section 121. Because the proceedings are in progress, I will not initiate, I will not intervene. So this is a matter where any intervention under 108 or by a Supreme Court can be done with. An order sanctioning prosecution. Again, section 132. 132 is a punishable offense. Whenever there is a prosecution, any magistrate or court says, look, they have been prosecuted, so let them finish their prosecution. Non-bailable warrant. Let them finish their proceedings, then I'll decide what needs to be done. Finally, this is the last decision. What they say? Decision under section 80. Whenever assessee has filed an application to pay tax in installments, section 18, which deals with your payment of tax in installments, a commission has given a power to relax the payment of taxes in periodical basis. Those matters let me not interpret with or intervene. So these are the matters where none of the officer can file an appeal to the department concerned. Moving on to the questions further. Namita is asking this question. Sir, as tribunal, is it not subordinate to the revisional authority? It is not, Namita. Absolutely not. Tribunal is always one step above. Reason, see, tribunal has got a retired, it has got a principal commissioner. It has got a retired judge. You have the finest to finest officers above the revisional authority. Next question from Santosh Sharma. Can a CA attempt the GSTP exam? I said, Santosh Sharma, a qualified chartered accountant need not write GSTP. Reason? A CA is notified under section 116 as an authorized representative. Now, further, In spite of being a CA, you want to write a GST exam? Yes, you can write. Namita is asking this question. Sir, tribunal, we have discussed this. How we can revise a tribunal order? Now, it is not revising a tribunal order. A tribunal has passed its order. Once they have passed an order, a matter which was not decided, a matter which they felt that it was missed out in this particular order, which is passed by Appellate Authority. Look at this matter, Namita. Appellate Authority gave its order. This came for tribunal. Once tribunal gave its judgment, they waited for tribunal judgment. Then Appellate Authority will go back to the order passed by AA. Please examine carefully. Look at the way they act upon. They will not say anything about the outcome of tribunal. They will straight away attack this Appellate Authority order, saying that they'll ignore the order passed by tribunal. They'll come back to Appellate Authority, saying that there was an error by this fellow who has interpreted. That will be taken up for scrutiny. Now, unfortunately, this assessee goes to the court and says, sir, tribunal is examined. The RA doesn't have authority to reopen. This is how they have to redirect to set aside the note of RA. Further, Namita is asking this question. 122, section 122, under that, clause 16, books of accounts are there, but not maintained as per Act. Is it also covered? Yes. Books of accounts are there, not updated. So when an officer comes for scrutiny, he wants an inventory register. Inventory register was updated on April 2021. Production was happening till December 2021. I have not updated. Then again, it is a violation of my non-updation. It is not a when you have not maintained. Where is the question of when you are not updated? Where is the question of maintenance? So accordingly, we can interpret 122 clause 16. Question 1, recap, can't it come in this case? It can come, Namita. No, okay. You have maintained. Now, when it is not updated, there is a question of maintenance. It was not updated. Okay. Only one transaction, not updation. I don't think, Namita. Okay. When we read that question number 1, sir, I have 100 transactions. One transaction I missed out. I'll not come to 122. Rather, I'll go to 125. Give a thought, Namita, once again. Santosh Sharma says, can 121 regarding prosecution be challenged in a Supreme Court High Court? No, unfortunately, no. Sairam is the last question for the day. There is a time limit to file appeal on that lockdown was imposed. Then how can we file an appeal? Fantastic question. For the benefit of other students, there is a suo motu order passed by Supreme Court to extend all the complaints right from 15th March 2020 till 28th February 2022, where they have vacated all these due dates. So all my section 107, 108, 109, 112, all these due dates have gone for a toss-up. So as per Saira, whatever the Supreme Court has passed an order, all these have been set aside as of today. So final question again, Akshay says, as no tribunal is there, everything is directed to High Court. Answer is yes. No. Yes. So students, with this we come to the end of today's discussion. I'll end my presentation today. We will meet again in the next week with the next topic for discussion. Till then, good night and goodbye.